Anybody remember Nano for last generation consoles? If so, hands up. Didn't think so. This was basically a science fiction themed version of Castlevania, Lament of Innocence, and its other last gen sequel. No coincidence, as the same dude made it. Or rather, slapped it together with the exact same engine and identical gameplay to boot. There was only one thing that set it apart, or even allows me to hold it in my mental inventory. The deliciously absurd level of gore. I mean, just look at this shit. This may well be a contender for bloodiest game of all time. Splatterhouse be damned. I remember buying this one just because of the blood-splattered screenshots I'd seen prior to its release. All other features non-essential. What I had failed to consider, though, was the fact that ridiculous amounts of GRU can only carry a game so far. And I wasn't even a fan of the Castlevania games this one was blatantly ripping off of. Basically, the hack-and-slash gameplay boiled down to vivisecting your monstrous foes while exploring bland maps and occasionally hitting invisible barriers that you couldn't proceed past until you slew all the mutants the game wanted you to. Now, I freaking hate it when games default to this, FYI. It's filler, and should you have forgotten, even for a millisecond, it reminds you that you're playing a damn video game. At other points in the game, though, you could blatantly run right past your dim-witted foes and not even bother fighting them at all, which makes the inclusion of the aforementioned invisible barriers even more mind-boggling. Needless backtracking was an issue I had with Lament of Innocence as well, and you did even more of it in Nano. The layout of the game's maps was downright confusing at points, and respawning enemies didn't help matters in the least. Alas, a solid story wasn't included either. This was the saga of two cyborgs named Jake and Keith, I shit you not, and their ultimate rivalry centered around an outbreak of mutant freaks. In typical anime-infused fashion, it was melodramatic and silly to the max, in case those cyborg names didn't already clue you in. But at least the cutscenes were well rendered, particularly the opening. Shy of the gallons upon gallons of blood spilled, Nano was a bore, neither bad enough nor good enough to be relevant to modern games. If I didn't like my action game sticky with viscera, I'd boot it from my mental inventory entirely.
Nano